Hi everyone, this is Laura Acosta, Head of Publisher Solutions here at Newstex, and today I am with a very special person. This is Michael Busler, PhD in business with a focus on economics, who writes this blog called Funding Democracy. Hi Michael, how
Uh,
are you?
I'm doing very well, Laura. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you, because I know that you are busy, that you have a tight schedule. So thank you so much for taking the time to share a little bit of your expertise, wisdom, career with us.
My pleasure.
Well, I would like to, just to start to get to know you a little better and your writing career, we could say. So can you please let us know, when did you start writing these opinion columns?
So I started writing back in the late 70s, over 40 years ago, writing for major newspapers. I lived in the Philadelphia area, so I wrote for the
Okay,
Philadelphia Bulletin, which is no longer around anymore, but at the time was a top 10 daily newspaper.
right.
And I also write for the Philadelphia Inquirer, which is still here and doing well. And I wrote in for a number of other newspapers, Pittsburgh Gazette, Asbury Park Press, and a few others in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey area.
Okay.
And then maybe 20 years ago, I started writing online columns. I started with an outfit called Conservative Daily News, and I still put my columns up there. And then for about the last probably 13 or 14 years, I've been writing for Newsmax. I write a weekly column for them on their website. It's also published on BizPack Review. And then I have my own Medium, Substack, and a Facebook, facebook.com/funding democracy. I also list all of my columns. So I've been doing this for over 40 years. I'm a free market economist by training. So I try to give free market opinions for all the economic circumstance and public policy. And I try to do it in such a way that I can take fairly complex economic ideas and put them into relatively easy to understand language so the average person can understand. I also, on issues that are somewhat controversial, I try to give both sides of the argument and then try to say why, here's my opinion and why I think that's right. For instance, should we raise the minimum wage? Well, that's a very popular thing. Many people favor it, and there's a lot of good reasons
Yeah.
to raise the minimum wage to help the lowest income earners earn higher wages. Generally, most people favor it. On the other side, the minimum wage actually does more harm than good because when you raise wages above what is a market equilibrium, you end
Yeah.
up with a surplus of labor, and a surplus of labor is called unemployment. And if you look at the unemployment rate for, say, teenagers or women entering the workforce for the first time, typically work at minimum wage, their
Mm,
unemployment rate is always 3 or 4 times higher than the national average.
mm,
So I give both sides of the arguments there. Here's the side I tend to favor, and then I tell my readers, think about it, think which way you believe makes the most sense. And then, of
mm.
course, when it comes time to vote for something like this, vote according to what you believe is um, correct. But one talent that I've developed over the years is taking this complex arguments and reducing them down to language that most people can understand. A lot of people read my work and they say, oh, that's what they were talking about. So I try to make things as understandable as possible and give both sides of the argument. As I say, I've been writing columns for over 40 years, mostly all online now, but occasionally I do one in newspapers also.
That is great. That is awesome to know. And I love when experts, expert in matters do that, because I've had the opportunity to read some of your articles, and I can say that I can understand what you're talking about. So that's, a real pleasure, because at the end of the day, we all as society, we me to understand and all of these type of topics, right? So
Exactly.
having access to content like the one that you produce is at the end of the day good for everyone. So thank you for your job. Thank you for your work, for what you're doing in here. And well, just to move forward with this interview, how did the love for writing was born?
So how did I start writing? So,
Like,
I'm sorry.
yeah, like that passion, that love for writing. Why did you start doing that? Like,
So
did you know that you wanted to write?
no. So
Exactly.
what happened was back when I was in school, graduate school, the professors would explain things to me, and some of the things they explained just didn't seem to sit right with me.
Okay.
So we're going back to 1976 when I started, when I was in graduate school. Actually, how all this got started was I wrote some columns and they were all rejected. I think the first 13 I wrote were rejected before I got one
Whoa.
published. Then there was some economic theories coming out, and I wrote to a number of prominent economists. Most of them didn't answer me, but in 1976, Milton Friedman had just won the Nobel Prize in economics, and to my
Hmm.
surprise, he answered my letter. And
Whoa.
then over the next 4 years, I had a corresponding relationship with Milton Friedman that helped develop my thoughts. At the time, he was writing a column for Newsweek magazine,
Hmm.
and Paul Samuelson, who had won the Nobel Prize a few years before and takes a much more progressive view, not a free market view, was
Hmm.
also writing in Newsweek. So they'd have Friedman's idea, his opinion, and Samuelson's opinion, and that was very popular back in the late 70s. So
Okay.
I started writing columns, and I sent my columns to Milton Friedman, and he commented on every one of them. And he
Wow.
helped me develop a lot of my ideas relative to free market economics. And once I started getting these published and getting someone with the stature of Milton Friedman interested in what I was doing, I figured people were interested in what I had to say, and I just kept
Definitely.
going from there. And in the beginning, I would write columns and publish wherever I could get published. I wasn't always successful in publishing all my columns,
Of course.
and then as I developed my writing style over the years, I was able to get more and more published. And for the last probably 15 years, every one of my columns gets published um, somewhere. I had a publicist for a year or two, and he would take a lot of my columns, and he had a much broader reach than I did. So he got some of my columns in Town Hall, The Hill, um, Epic Times, Daily Signal, and a few others fairly prominent websites. That established me. And then I developed somewhat of an audience, and then I just kept writing. And every time something happens, particularly in the last, 10 years or so, 15 years, a lot has been happening in economics, and there's a very difference of opinion, very large difference of opinion on a
Yeah.
lot of these economic policies. So whenever something would happen, I would feel a passion that I had to express what my opinion was. And I just kept doing that all these years. And now I'm to the point where I write a column every week, and I always have something to say about economics. A lot this year because much of what the Trump administration is doing
Hmm.
is different than what has been done in the past, tariff policy,
Yeah.
um, for instance.
Well,
So each of those, gets my passions flowing, and I tend to write the column over the weekend. I
okay.
send them in first thing Monday morning, and they tend to get published, later Monday morning, and I just keep going like that.
Well, I'm very glad that you have kept going over all of these years.
Yeah,
And I heard that you are also a professor at a university. Is that right?
I am. So I've been teaching now um, for about 30 years. So I teach at Stockton University, which is a university near Atlantic City, New Jersey. I live down beach from Atlantic City. So there I'm the chairman of the finance program. I'm a full professor there,
Wow.
and I continue to teach and do my writing.
Well, I bet your students are learning a lot from you, are proud of you as their professor.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah. Okay, so coming back to the columns, the opinion columns, your blog and everything, can you tell us like who's your ideal reader? Do you write for having someone in mind?
So I write for people that have an interest in what's happening in the world and want to become educated
Exactly.
so that they can cast their votes appropriately. So if someone is interested in public policy or economic policy and they hear something wants to be done, President Trump wants to start a savings account, giving $1,000 to every newborn child. And they'll have that up until they're 18. There's a whole lot of things that go along with that. So some people are asking, I did a interview on radio today, and the interviewer was asking what's behind this, how much will it cost, is it a good idea, what's the
Yeah.
drawbacks? So I can explain all that. So any reader who's interested in learning about current economic policy, both the
Mm,
pros and the cons, should take a look at my column, and they'll be able to see, oh, this is what they meant. Well, this is the good, this is maybe the not so good, and overall, let me form my opinion so I can become an educated voter and cast my
exactly.
vote appropriately. So anybody who's really interested in learning how these policies came about, what they mean, what they'll do, the pros and cons, anybody like that would be attracted to what I have to say.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect. Um, now as a writer, do you have any tips, tools, sources that you will suggest new writers to use?
So what I can say to new writers is just practice a lot and don't get discouraged. So I said my first 13 columns, which I thought were great, I did. My first 13 columns that got turned down. Then I got one published, and I was lucky enough, the one that got published ended up winning an award for writing about the free enterprise system.
Yeah.
And then once I got that award, it was a little easier to get things published. But what I would say is don't get discouraged. There's a lot of people say no for who knows what reason, but don't get discouraged. The other thing I would say is when you send a column in to be published, typically an editor will rewrite much of the column. And I learned to be a better writer by taking a look at what I submitted to them and what they
Hmm.
actually published. And I got to see, well, this is how I said something, but I see the way the editor said it. That's a much better way to do it. I learned from that. And over the years of learning, I'm now to the point where I understand how to communicate effectively. So the best thing to do is not get discouraged, keep going. And you can go to a place like Medium or Substack where they don't edit. So they'll publish whatever you have to say, and then you try to build an audience from that. So that's a good way, I think, for young writers to get started. You want to eventually get into publications that have some credibility because that gives you then credibility as a writer. You'll also find once your work gets published, make sure that people who are reading know how to reach you. Typically, just put your email address in there. People know how to reach you. And I've gotten a lot of radio and TV interviews from my column. Somebody will see what I wrote, they'll touch base with me, and they'll say, "Listen, could you come on my show today and let me interview you about that column?" So you want to try to expand your reach as much as possible, and if you can get on some blog, some podcasts or some radio shows. There's a lot of talk radio shows that bring guest stars, guest interviewers in. And then eventually you get to television and a lot of podcasts being done today. So just
Yeah.
try to get your name out there. Don't get discouraged and just keep going.
Awesome.
That's
That,
what I would say.
yeah, I love that. I mean, and I love that you didn't share, like, I have this tool that is going to change your life. No, it's perseverance, is trusting yourself, keep practicing, keep going, and you'll get there. So
Exactly.
thank you, thank you. We can see your, professor spirit as well with this response. So yeah, I love that. We can tell that you're very passionate for everything that you do,
I
and that's
am.
something that, publishers need to transmit into what they write
Yeah.
at the end of the day, right? Okay, now just like an editorial question, I see that you have like different types of like formats in your articles. How do you balance, for example, short, quick posts with deeper pieces?
So I do have a conflict. I try to make all of my opinion columns around 700 words. That was what the newspapers wanted when I first started writing, and I got used to writing in that style. Um, any longer than that, you tend to lose the reader's interest. They can
Okay.
be shorter than that, but I need enough to be able to explain what I'm trying to say. My more difficult task is if I try to explain something using economic terms,
Hmm.
the public really doesn't quite get it. I start talking about the marginal propensity to consume and that sort of thing, and people just don't get it. So I have to take these economic uh, ideas and expressions and turn them into language that the average person can understand. I think I do a pretty good job with it. To be perfectly candid, a lot of economists say, listen, you wrote this, that's not quite exactly right. And they're right, it's not. But it gets the point across. For instance,
Yeah.
if I say, look, the unemployment rate was 4.2% last month, up from 3.8%. People aren't going to get that. If I say the unemployment rate is around 4.4%, everybody seems to get that. So I try to do that to keep things, especially with numbers, as simple as possible. If you go more than one decimal place over, you tend to lose people. I try not to use any decimal places. I try to use whole numbers. But again, that's not
Yeah.
exactly right, my colleagues will say, and I'll agree with them. But I have to get the point across, and
Yeah.
sometimes to get the point across, you have to sort of round things off a little bit. Not that anything's incorrect, but it's just not as exact as it would be if I used technical language and a few more decimal point. So that's really my challenge when I go to write these economic articles, being able to make sense and support my view while still keeping the attention of the reader. And I think I've been able to do a fairly good job of that over the years. I'm still learning too, even though I've been doing this 40 years. I'm still trying to get things right as much as possible.
Yeah, you know, have I said you are doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
no,
so much.
thank
You know,
you.
if people have an interest, I've done a lot of TV and radio. I think if you Google my name or look at
Yeah,
podcasts, my name, you'll see some of the things that I've done, and you can see how I try to explain things in a manner that becomes understandable for the vast majority of the people.
thank you. And I was going to, have my last question. And after that, I want you to share with us a little bit where we can find your work. Apart from, the blog, you can say a little bit of that. Or if we need to go and listen to, this podcast episode that you love or something like that, please, we'll have the time for that.
Okay, so
Bef
a couple things.
yes.
Every one of my columns is on my Facebook page. So facebook.com// funding democracy. So if you
Okay.
go there, there's every one of my columns. For the last, I don't know, 10 or 12 years, I've been on Newsmax. So if you go there and search for my name and then you click on it, it'll give you a list of all the columns I've written, probably back to 2013, I think, when I started with them. So you can find them there. I do have a Medium. You can go to Medium, search for my name there, Michael Busler, and all my columns are there. My Substack is only a few years old, but I put all my columns there also. If you want to follow me on Facebook, that'd be great.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael, for sharing all of these channels where we can connect with you and your amazing work. So for my last question is, can you please let me know what moved you to partner with us with Newstex?
Well, I know of the value of your organization. I'm trying to increase my reach as much as possible, and I know you're very good at doing that. And it seemed like it might be a good partnership. So far it looks like it's working out well, and I'm looking forward to a bright future here with you.
Absolutely. We're looking forward for the same, and hopefully, we can contribute into your growing success. Let's put it that way. Well, Michael, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for doing this, sharing with us a little bit of you, of your work over all of these years. And keep doing, please keep going, keep doing it. And we'll be here to read your new articles, to see what is happening with you as a professor, as a writer. So yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, I let you go for today. Bye bye, Michael.
Bye bye. Take care.